Arch Manning remains in the concussion protocol. Will he play or not? As I've said all week, once I saw that he was practicing on Wednesday, at least out there, still in the protocols, going through the process that Mark Strickland explained to you yesterday, I think it'll be a game-time decision. If he's cleared, did he get enough practice work? If he's cleared completely, right, and he's ready for full contact, according to the medical experts that are doing the protocols and putting him through those very specific protocols that Mark Strickland explained, then it's going to be a team decision. What's the best go? I would think it's Arch because I got in this debate a little bit yesterday. Our buddy CJ Vogel at On Texas Football was tweeting about it, and I agree with CJ. I know there's a lot of Longhorn fans, Jack, that are saying, well, Matt Caldwell's come in and made some good throws. Well, look, let me just say it. Arch Manning, through his struggles, has been your best offensive player for a month.
Right.
And I know that Longhorn fans are going to be like, what? Well, your offense has been sputtery, to say the least. Your run game's been sporadic, the passing game, but your best player on offense this month has been Arch Manning. Well, he wasn't in the first month,
no,
but he's been playing good, and he's just coming off his best performance. He had a 200 passer rating in the second half of the Mississippi State comeback. He's starting to play looser, just play the game, motivating his team and being the leader, as we talked about. So you're talking about that guy who's been your best player offensively for a month, coming off the best game of his career, and you folks who are arguing for Matt Caldwell, and I guess I get it. Well, Matt Caldwell's only played very limited time this year. He just arrived in June. He took over the Troy program halfway through last year, so he wasn't even the starter when the season began. And he completed 59% of his passes. He threw 13 touchdowns, but he also threw 8 interceptions in the Sun Belt. Come on. Your best chance to win the game, in my opinion, is a healthy Arch Manning. But if Arch Manning isn't healthy, then you can't go with him and you go to plan B. I get that. But if he's cleared, and if he's fully cleared through the protocols, I think, you'd be silly not to go with Arch Manning. That would be my thought on that. Are you in line with that? Or the people arguing for Matt Caldwell based on very limited, and I gave him more flowers than anybody for what he did in overtime with that throw coming in cold off the bench. But that's what your backup quarterback needs to be able to do: come off the bench, complete some throws in an emergency break glass situation. But you're playing a 7th, 9th ranked team in the country. This guy had mediocre stats at Troy.
Yeah, okay, he's come in and made 2 throws in conference play. They were both great. However, what were fans doing all of last season?
Calling for Arch.
Clamoring for the backup quarterback. And now that backup quarterback is your starting quarterback, people want to go to the other backup quarterback.
Yeah, well, this is what we do,
right?
I get it, but at the same time, let's put the facts on the table. You can disagree with my facts and call them but Arch Manning's been their best offensive player this month. Yeah. Oklahoma game,
there's not an argument for anybody else.
The Florida game, even he was the best.
He threw 2 picks, but he was the best player on the field there. He was
the rest of the team played awful in Gainesville.
You can't run the ball. You've run the ball one time. It was Oklahoma.
Kentucky, he was terrible, but at the same time, the whole offense was terrible. So again, in a month of sputtery offense and wonky offense, he's been the best player. And he played his best game 1 week ago. So if he is cleared, I think he plays. It's no risk. Don't put the young guy in any danger. But if the doctors say he's good and his parents and his family are good with it, you put him on the field. I'm not but that's the only way. If he's not healthy, then you have to go with Matt Caldwell and get what you get and hope you can find a win. Real quick, let's get some Sark because one thing, we just heard Matt Moscona, and we appreciate Matt joining us on short notice to get you what's going on in Baton Rouge. They, of course, part of Brian Kelly being fired in Baton Rouge was they lost to Vanderbilt. Then they lost to A&M, a couple of top 10 teams, and it happened quickly. Life comes at you fast in college football these days. Ask James Franklin and Brian Kelly. But here's Sark. Sark was asked about the offensive line, and Matt Moscona mentioned it and why they're tough. Because they have such veteran offensive linemen and older guys, they switch sides offensively, right? The offensive line will go to a strong side. They'll kind of like, as he said, an old spread veer in high school. You'll move guys around to the strong side to the weak side. Listen to Sark talk about preparing for that on a week basis to get ready for this offense led by Diego Pavia with a bunch of 23-year-old grown men.
I think the one thing that has gotten notoriety for Vanderbilt's offensive line is that they play with a strong and a weak side. Most sides, more typically, is you have a left tackle, a left guard, and then a right guard and a right tackle. And they flip sides. and that's a little bit of an older model, but a very effective model that worked for a long, long time, and it works for them. There's not much really to make of it outside of that. That's what they do. I do think this is an excellent run blocking unit. They use a variety of schemes. They pull well.
All right, so they can run the ball. They can. I mean, first drive of the game against Alabama, Jack. They had a 75-yard touchdown run by Cedric Alexander from right here in Austin, Texas. They break long runs because they block downfield. Cedric's a really good runner. The backs are really good. They got a stable of guys with Diego Pavia because all the focus on Pavia, but they've got a really old and physical offensive line, and you just heard Sark describing how they flip sides and whatnot. Let's get an injury update from Sark on the two captains. 216s have been on the practice field. We know that. Michael Taaffe and Arch Manning. Yesterday on his weekly Thursday Zoom, Sark provided a bit of an update on both players. Michael Taaffe at safety, obviously Arch Manning, as we just talked about, your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think one of the things is just there's a quiet confidence, and I don't know if necessarily quiet is the right word, but there's a confidence that Michael Taaffe provides when he's on the field. I don't know that schematically we could have or would have played any better. It wasn't like we were blowing coverages and things. I think they maybe got us on one. But I do think there's a sense of confidence that he can provide to the guys around him. But I do think it was a great opportunity for Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams, Xavier Filsaime to grow in their role. I thought it was great for Anthony Hill to step up even more, and sometimes, certain games require more of you. And that one required more of Anthony Hill. And just like certain games have required more of Colin or Ethan Burke last week, so on and so forth. And so, when you have moments like that, yeah, you miss those great players, but it also provides great opportunities for others and that we can grow from. Both Arch and Michael practiced again today. I don't have anything beyond for Arch just because we have to follow the protocol of the days and the reps. But Arch is making good progress as well as Michael.
All right, so feels to me like Michael will play through the pain if he's got him. He's had surgery, but kind of like John Mateer for Oklahoma. He's a gamer. If he can play, he's going to play, and he'll put a wrap on it. And Michael should be out there leading that defense. As for Arch, we just went through that conversation. The great news for Texas is that because Michael Taaffe and Arch are both listed as questionable for the game tomorrow, Cole Hudson, who's missed the last two games, got hurt in the Oklahoma game, he is listed as actually got hurt the week of the Kentucky game. That's a big part of the communication. Got hurt during practice that week. He is listed as probable now. He was questionable on Wednesday, now probable in the latest release. So, that's the opportunity for Texas to get your offensive line back solidified, pick your best five, and see if you can establish a run game against this team. And
right.
Because, we'll talk about it throughout the morning at our pregame tomorrow at the tailgate from 9 to 11. You got to stay ahead of the chains. You got to be efficient offensively against this team because Vanderbilt, with their experience and the way they play, want to take the ball away from you and then frustrate you when you get on the field because you haven't had it in a while. Even if they score, but they're one of the highest scoring offenses in all the SEC. But they control the ball. They don't go slow. I mean, fast. Like we just saw, Mississippi State goes fast and kind of wore Texas down. Vanderbilt's the opposite. They're deliberate. They're slow. They want to take drives. So you may only get 8 possessions in a football game, 7 if you're not careful. So you have to be efficient with each one of those, which is why you need as many good players and healthy players as you can. I want to hear from Sark on prepping two different quarterbacks. The challenges of Matthew Caldwell getting the first team reps, Arch in the protocol. How does that challenge an offense when you're not sure who the quarterback's going to be? Here's Sark on that conversation.
Changed anything that we've done. Our system's been our system. I know that as coaches and his teammates have the utmost, confidence and respect for Matt Caldwell. He performs really well. I know you guys have a very small sample size of what you see in game, but he gives us a ton of confidence in the way that he practices every day, the way that he works. Naturally, he's been thrown into the fire here a couple different times in SEC play and has performed very well. So the game plan is the game plan. And I think that all of his teammates have a ton of confidence in Matt if it's his time to go.
All right, so I think we'll know that as of game time. 9 on game time. We'll know that probably tomorrow with Arch and where he is in the protocols and what he looks like today if they have a walkthrough. Because remember, as Mark Strickland told us, at some point you get past step 6 and into 7, you're then full cleared for full go. Cleared for full go, he said. Full contact if you need it. And that's got to be by the doctors. But if he is, that could be today. If he was on the practice field going through the on-field protocols in pads on Wednesday, Now, you could see a timeline, as he said, 24 hours at a time. That gets to Friday. On Friday, they do the walkthrough. They go to the hotel. They stay even though they're at home finally, they go on the road and stay in a hotel down there at the Omni, and they do their team, their breakdowns. If Arch feels like he's good there, and he gets up Saturday morning in warm-ups, you're still not showing any effects, and I think you probably go with Arch because he's been there all week long. He knows this offense, and obviously if anything goes awry, you got Matt Caldwell who's had a full week of first-team reps. But I that's how it's going to play out in my mind. They'll decide that tomorrow morning.
I mean, I think if Arch can, then he will, period, full stop. You don't even think about it, right? I mean,
exactly.
If he's cleared, he plays.
I agree.
Your season's on the line. This isn't the NFL. You're not punting on week 8.
Yeah, and if you can win this game, your season's very much alive.
Right.
And you have a top 10 win, which would be your second of the year, because at the time Oklahoma was number 6 in the country. They've taken you lost to you and to now Ole Miss, another top 5 team. But this is a 9th-ranked team in the country. You beat them, you're at 20 now. It doesn't matter where you rise to, but the first college football playoff rankings are out next week, and or on Tuesday. You're right in the thick of things, but you still have to go to Georgia, play A&M. Those are top 5 teams as well. It's the SEC, baby. That's what it's all about. But you got to win this game. To your point, your season's on the line. Bye week won't be very fun if you lose tomorrow, which is very much possible against this team.